What is up, Evil Dead fans? In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a proper Ash vs. Evil Dead muffler block. Now, I know you can buy them in places. I know Rob from Evil Dead Chainsaws was making them. I'm not sure if he still is, but if you're interested in getting one from him, definitely hit him up. There is a lot of other people who do make them and do sell them, but I'm going to show you how to do it at home. So you can make one, you can make more, you can make as many as you want and do it proper way. Now, first and foremost, is that block, the wooden block looking piece with the muffler, one single piece? It is true. It is not one singular piece. It's actually two pieces together. Now, let's start with the actual muffler piece. Now, if you know home lights, what you have right here is the actual muffler piece that you need. And I've seen a lot of people, they just put this on a wooden block, and this is what happens, my reaction every time I see it. So what do we do with this? What do we do with this muffler piece? Now, you can buy a piece from somebody I don't know, named Brett Screwy Chainsaws, who actually makes these pieces. Or there's other people out there who do them as well. But if you're low on cash, excuse me, but if you're low on cash and you want to do it yourself, you basically got to just cut it in half. See, if you look at how big it is in difference, it's basically cut in half. So if you look at the front, you can see there's still somewhat of a slope. So if you look at this, so basically right where that slope is, you want to cut that all the way around. So you almost cut it in half, but not quite. I don't know the exact measurement. I'm gonna leave that up to you guys to figure it out, but here's a good comparison photo right here for you guys. Let me get that evened up. Like I said, got that little lip right there. Got that right there. Right there is where you want to cut it. So it's not quite in half, it's almost in half. But like I said, if you're looking to get one of these and you need one of these, hit me up on Facebook. I'm Brett Screwy Chainsaws, and we'll get to talking how you can get one of these as well. So if you got that cut, it's nice and flat, or if you have one readily available already, next thing you need is a good 2x4. Now, we're gonna start making the wooden block. Now I got the measurements right here on this piece of wood. Across here is 3 inches. Going down, it's 2 3/8. Across is 2 3/8. You can narrow it to the closest 1/4 inch, like you could do 2 1/4 or 2 1/2. You can kind of do it. You got a little bit of wiggle room. You got to remember, we're going to be doing some sanding on this as well, and we're going to do some coverage. So the best way to cut one of these is the chop saw, because you will get a nice straight cut. Table saw works well. Bandsaw kind of okay. It kind of wiggles on you. Just whatever you have to make sure you can cut that straight, because you don't want to have to just constantly fill in things. So let's get this cut. All right, now we have it completely cut. And let's take the piece that we have, sit on top, see if it fits well. Bam, here we go. All right, the next step is, with this, is we're gonna round off the edges and kind of smooth things out a little bit. So get a sanding block, something nice and straight. Don't use anything super coarse either. Use something somewhat decent of a fine sanding grit. Nothing too hard. And just start kind of going over the edges a bit. You don't have to do too much. While you do this, you can contemplate the decisions you've made in your life. So I'm going to speed this up. I'm going to get this done and I'll be right back. Okay, now all the sanding is done that I need. You can see that it's rounded here, 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 and not so much on the other side. Why didn't I do it? Is because you really don't need to do it. It's not going to be seen ever. But if you want to go that route, jump on it. You can round it out completely. I mean, this other side here probably should. And son of a bitch. Let me run it real quick. Give me all Twitter pages, but you don't have to. I usually do, but it's not so much needed because, like I said, you never see it. Okay. That's all I'm gonna do to this back side. That's the back side, this is the front side. That's all I'm gonna do. Now you're gonna say, well, Brett, still looks like a piece of fucking wood. Well, yeah, because it is a piece of fucking wood. How do we stop it from looking like wood? Well, you can sand away and sand away and sand away, but you're still gonna get that crappy ass cut look, you know, where the grain is. Same with the front. Now, what I usually use for this next process, I'm covered in dust now. For this process, I usually use milliput and I just do a thin layer all over it. Except for the inside, because you really don't need it. But to speed this process up, there is something else you can use that's a little more readily accessible to a lot more people. That is Bondo. Now, Bondo is what they use to finish off cars, vehicles, all kinds of things like that. If you look here, there's some chips here. Instead of starting over, what I'm gonna do is coat it with Bondo. And Bondo dries a lot quicker than milliput. It's just to give a nice finished look rather than something that's like structurally stuck together with something else. Like if you're connecting two pieces together, Bondo is not what you need for that. It's not a two-part epoxy. It's a finishing agent to make something look nice. So I'm gonna get the Bondo out and then I'm going to show you what it looks like with all the Bondo all over it. Now, this is the Bondo I use for this kind of stuff. It's just a simple body filler. It's basically a finisher as well. I don't use the fiberglass stuff on this. It's kind of unnecessary. It's just gonna finish it off and make it look nice and smooth. And then of course, we're gonna grit it up. We don't have to get it 100% immaculate. I'm gonna get the best I can just to show you guys. And also, if you're allergic to two-part epoxies, things like this, use gloves, use safety goggles, whatever, dress up, put a condom on. I really don't care. It's kind of up to you and how your body is. So if you can't handle it, take the proper precautions. Always read the precautions when it comes to doing anything with chemicals. If you're using chemicals, it's not really chemicals, it kind of is, but just read the safety precautions, things needed. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this bonded up and get started. So there we go, it's all bonded up. Looks like crap, but it's all gonna be sanded down nice and flat. It's gonna fill in all the areas that look like wood, make it look like wood, and make it look like something completely different. So I'm gonna let that dry. Bondo doesn't have a long set time like milliput, for instance. So that's why I'm using it, just because it's quicker. It works basically the same. I prefer to use milliput just because I like it, but actually Bondo's easier to work with, even though it doesn't have a long set time. So when you mix it up, you kind of gotta get it on there very, very quick. So let's let it dry and then I'll sand it down and show you what's gonna happen with this, how it's gonna look. One thing you notice, it's sitting like this because you really don't need to do the bottom. You just don't want the bottom to look like crap. You want it to be somewhat smooth. We're gonna grit it up and make it look good. So the back side of this, the bottom isn't bonded. The biggest sides to get is this side and this other side where the grain is at. But we want this top smooth and we want this front smooth. So let's let it dry and then sand it. Okay, one thing you can do if you do have one of my muffler pieces, you can see right here it doesn't have a bottom, but if you're making one of these from an original or got one from somebody else where the hole's all the way through, for this process you have to wait till it's fully installed on the block because it has to sit against something. Now this is something everybody's done in school when they were little kids. It's basically put glue down, throw some glitter on it, and let it sit. So you don't have to use like a super hard up glue like a super Loctite, and don't use Gorilla Glue because it may foam up. Do not use Gorilla Glue, at least the basic Gorilla Glue, because it will foam up. Gorilla Glue basically is spray foam. Really, get it wet and it will foam up like spray foam. So you can use Elmer's glue, just depends on how long you want to sit. So you just put some glue inside of there, whether it's on the block or like this, and then you get some sand. Doesn't matter what color because you're simply gonna paint it, so it really doesn't matter. Toss a bunch in there and let it sit. See, it's just sitting in there, because if you toss all the sand out right away, guess what? It'll kind of look muddy rather than gritty, so you just let it sit. And this has been sitting for about an hour so far. So that's a process you can do. Like I said, if this hole is all the way through, you'll have to wait until this is fully installed on your block before you can do that process. But if you have one where it's like this, like mine, you can do this process in the meantime. Okay, in the meantime also as well, while this is drying, you can figure out what kind of screw you want to use. Now, if you want to go with like a season 2, season 3 variant look, you can use one of these. This is way short. Just want to show you the tips, the Phillips head. One of the season 1 looks that is I really like is, if it focuses, come on. There we go. Is this flathead look. Now, if you notice, this is a bolt, and this is actually from the muffler piece, the original muffler piece from the home light. You can use this too. The way you insert it into the wooden block is you basically drill a hole that is not as thick as the little ridges here, the little threading, because it will thread right in. So that's one thing you can do. Another look you can go for, it's not seen very much, is the more rounded flathead screw. And what I do is, just got a message from Chris Pollock, he's pissed off at somebody, I'm gonna have to read that, is when I drill it out into my muffler piece, I actually leave it a little bit wider, because you just want it to be tight into the block piece, not into this. So you don't have to worry about, honestly, screwing up by drilling somewhat of an angle. If you kind of screw up, you definitely want to pilot a hole, but if you get a little wonky, you can just widen it out, because it's just going to be tight against the block. So the screw or the threads need to be into the block and tight, not so much the muffler piece here. And it also helps if you do put a little bit glue on the bottom of this, when you do put that on. But let's get in the sand in this thing and get this piece installed. All right, so here we are, it's installed. So what I did after I drilled this out and I sanded the block down, the one thing you're gonna notice about the block is you're gonna see a few little spots here and there that are a little rough. And that doesn't really matter, because we're gonna grit it up anyways. You just wanna get rid of that wood look. And this is gonna be tucked on the inside anyway, so it's not a huge deal. You just wanna get rid of the wood look. So that's the biggest thing. Now you can always go all the way around. You can do the whole damn thing if you want. The inside's kind of unnecessary. I mean the bottom of the inside, because you never see it. Whether you're doing the technique using one of Rob's tops or Rob's motor pieces, or if you're doing the 2-part system like I do, you never see it, because see how it's rounded like that? That's because if you're going to insert your wrist clamp, it slides against it. And you never see that rounded part because the actual clamp hides that. So that's a story for another day. This is specifically on the block. So now it's installed. So what I did is, after I had this drilled, sanded all this off, what I did is then did a pilot hole through the hole to know where it needed to be placed. And you can see the placement right there. You got a bit of an edge right there. Can even it this way. That's where you want the placement to be. You want to leave an edge, as you can see. You don't want it too far forward or like perfectly centered. You want it back a bit like this. Drilled the hole in the wood, made it just enough to where the edges, since I'm using a bolt instead of a screw, that the edges of the threading catch. So, and then I put just a dab of glue on the bottom side of this muffler piece. I usually use, I got a new phone and I'm still trying to figure this out. Here we go. Super Glue Ultra Gel Control. I love that stuff. So what I'm gonna do is just dump that shit on my floor like a boss. See, it's all blue and glittery in there. Next step is the paint. So let's get to that. All right, now we're getting to the painting portion. And what I always use is Full Cart Multi-Surface Pure Black in Satin. It's a good acrylic, trust me. And a brush like this, or whatever floats your boat. Just don't get that plasticky ass bristle stuff, because that is for, I don't know, kindergartners and babies and garbage cans. So just grab that, and we're gonna glop the shit out of this, but make it look nice at the same time. And we're gonna do many different coats as needed because the muffler pieces on Ash vs. Evil Dead were very, very textured and rigid. Now, if you're like, I can buy some spray paint and put some texture on it. Yeah, don't do that. It'll look like butt. It'll look too ugly, I guess. I don't know. I don't like it. I think it looks stupid. It's a cheap, cut the corners bullshit thing that drives me nuts because I don't like it. But if that's your preference, if you want it nice and smooth and crisp, you can go with that. Fine. But if you want it to look more like Ash vs. Evil Dead, you gotta gunk the shit out of it, man. Trust me, I saw one in person and the auction photos. They are gunky as crap. But I can buy some hammered paint. Yeah, I bet you could, and I bet you're gonna waste your money too. So yeah, I'm just dabbing that on there, kind of not being lenient on the paint either, but you don't want too terribly too much. You want just enough. You're gonna have to do this a few times to get that right gloppiness. I'm sorry, I'm trying to do this one-handed. It's kind of tough. I do apologize. Okay. I'm not getting the pressure I like though, because it's one-handed. And it's moving. Where are you moving to? All right, I'm gonna stop there for now. Kind of show you guys what it's looking like. Look at that. See that dab technique with that good paint? That nice multi-surface acrylic? See, if you get the indoor acrylic paint, it's absolute and utter trash. Do not get the indoor stuff, get the outdoor stuff. Now let's let that dry. I'm gonna put a few more coats on and kind of finish this part up, and then we'll get back to it again. Okay, as you can see, it's not fully done yet, but I double coated the area so you can kind of see it better. Now when it comes to the brushes, these are a little bit of a plasticky edge, I can say that. But when I talk about plasticky paint brushes, I'm talking about those big fat fuckers that suck. And then also for the inner part, I use one of these. You can really use whatever for that. So let's take a closer look. You can see it's shiny, but you can see the wood look is gone. It's got that nice grit that is from Ash vs. Evil Dead. Got the backside right here. Look at that. You don't even need to add sand. So you can still see the wood here because it's not double coated, because I have to handle this damn thing. But when it's finally done, it's gonna lay flat a little bit and you're gonna get something like that. And that's really the look you want. So since it is satin, it will dull down like this. And I hope that helped you guys out. And I'm telling you, when you do something like this, and you go that extra effort, when somebody looks at your chainsaw, this is their face. Well, maybe not quite that, but you definitely want to smack them in the face with just the small details that you put into your chainsaw. It makes it worth the time of doing it with your final project. Where the fuck am I going with this? I'm gonna keep going with it. It makes the build and the finished product worthwhile. Just those small little things that you add in. So, at the end of the day, I hope this helped you guys out. And in the future, I may talk about the two-part system versus the single-part system and how to install that if you don't know. And yeah, really, that's it. So until next time, you guys stay groovy.